A wise man once said that women love what they buy, yet hate what they have in their closets. This is a story of a girl who felt exactly this way. Everyone thought that Victoria had just everything one could ask for. Having to worry about nothing other than how she would spend her money on her looks and where to go clubbing, her life seemed far from stressful. She didn't share the same opinion though. On a daily basis, Victoria would spend most of her time in her huge wardrobe room, trying new clothes to boost her confidence and cover her insecurities. The truth is that she suffered from the image update syndrome, a psychological situation that compelled her to buy constantly new clothes, as she had to keep up with the latest trends. But the latest trends would not last long, and these new clothes would simply feed her insecurity even more, instead of satisfying her. Therefore, she felt forever trapped in this tyranny of trends. The irony was that despite her endless thirst for new clothes, she didn't really care about them. She had absolutely no idea where they came from, how they were made, and couldn't feel any kind of emotional attachment to them. How could she feel anything anyway, when she could buy huge quantities of cheap clothes and simply feed her fat bean with them after being worn once or twice? One night, she was out clubbing with friends. Some weird guy who was sitting next to them noticed Victoria and started observing her looks and behavior. It didn't take long to realize how much of a naive fashion victim she was, so he approached her and made his move. He introduced himself as a famous stylist, and after chatting with her about fashion and trends, he offered to work for her as her personal stylist.
You will have to do absolutely nothing, darling. I will do all the shopping for you. As you can imagine, I have access to the most famous fashion houses, and I can bring back to you the best designer clothes ever worn.
The idea of being dressed in the latest trends sounded, of course, so exciting to her.
I can't believe I am so lucky to find this guy. All my posh friends would do anything to find these unique pieces. I should definitely have a VIP party to show my new look.
The girl didn't take long to fall into this trap. After paying the guy a huge amount of money for his services, he finally showed up at her place to show her new party outfit. As soon as he emptied the bags on her bed, she was shocked to see a bulk of the cheapest and ugliest clothes she had ever set eyes on.
But how can this be?
The stylist, of course, recognized immediately the expression of disgust on her face and rushed to explain himself by making up the excuse that those people who would not be able to see the uniqueness of these clothes would only be those who have no idea about fashion and are completely outdated. How could she ever admit that she could only see a bulk of awful clothes on her bed and let the stylist take her for a completely outdated fashionista? Oh no, no way. There was no chance she would ever let this happen. A closer look at the clothes revealed in a strange way the reason that made these clothes look so ugly. And there was no other reason for this than the sad history they portrayed. The shortened dresses had bloodstains all over them from the physical abuse of the women of the third world countries who had made them. The cheap cotton t-shirts looked so creased and dry, like the children who suffered from thirst just to sacrifice enormous volumes of water for these t-shirts to be made. One could even smell the poisonous toxic chemicals that were used to produce the synthetic trousers, and almost feel the pain of the worker who suffered from leukemia just because of this exposure. And the mink collar, oh gosh, one could even feel this poor animal crying for mercy while being cruelly slaughtered just to end up in a shop's window.
Oh my god, what have I done? Did I really need all this horrible waste? The last thing these clothes can do is make me feel good. So, what do you think, darling? Aren't they just lovely?
Victoria wanted to scream from horror, but instead, she swallowed her pride and pretended that everything was fine. She thought maybe it was just herself who saw such disgust in these clothes, and under no circumstances she would ever risk her fame as a fashion icon.
Yeah, they do look beautiful,
she replied, knowing that they were far from beautiful. The next evening, when everything was ready for the party, her famous friends of the showbiz world, along with several fashion journalists, started to show up at her place. Soon, Victoria presented herself in her new clothes exactly the way she had planned them. By the time she started coming down the stairs, every single person in the house went speechless, and all the smiles suddenly froze on the guests' faces.
Look at them. They can't even talk. I must look absolutely stunning.
The poor girl, having no idea that everyone was shocked by her awful looks, started posing and greeting her guests. No one would dare to say a word about her disgusting clothes. The so-called stylist, who stood there looking at her as well, had managed to take her money and give her in return cheap fast fashion clothes, which had literally not only cost the earth to be made, but also the abuse and exploitation of the disadvantaged communities of the world. Suddenly, the loud voice of one of her guests broke the silence.
Oh, look at her! How does she dare to wear something as horrible as that?
The truth, of course, is that the lady just said aloud what everyone was thinking, but no one would dare to talk about before. Straight after this, everyone in the house started whispering to each other, and one could hear the same comments coming from all of them.
She is right. These clothes are just a shame. I can't believe she walks around in something so cheap, ugly and disastrous for our environment. What a naive fast fashion victim. God knows how many people suffered for these clothes to be made. I would expect that Victoria would be a globally alert consumer, but apparently she is not. She looks so ugly and outdated after all.
Victoria felt as she was leaving her worst nightmare. Her guests felt so ashamed to be seen around her that not only turned their back on her, but started to leave the house one after the other. How could she be the last person to see the real ugliness of these clothes, and even worse, let everyone know that she is so stupid to promote this waste? Soon, Victoria was left alone at her own party. She found a corner, and she spent so much time there, crying and regretting for her choices, when someone, from far away in the woods, heard her calling. The green fairy had been watching the girl, and even though her actions had caused disastrous impacts to the environment, the fairy felt her sorrow and decided to give Victoria a second chance at happiness. She turned into a butterfly and visited Victoria to let her know that there is a whole new world out there waiting to be discovered. As the girl was still crying, suddenly a soft voice replied to her thoughts.
Yes, you can still make up for this disaster. There is always a greener choice, dear. I am here to turn you from an eco-warrior to an eco-warrior. But how is this possible? A fairy? You don't have to believe in fairies. You should believe in Mother Nature, though.
The green fairy stayed there all night to pass her eco-fashion wisdom to Victoria. She told her that there is always a story behind every piece of garment, and it doesn't have to be necessarily a sad story. Victoria learned to love her clothes for the story and the memories attached to them, and even when she was bored of them, she wouldn't simply feed her fat bin with them. She would give them the second chance they deserved, either by restyling them or donating them to several charities. Her favorite thing, though, was when she would organize swap shop parties for her friends, where they would all exchange clothes, confess their personal stories about these clothes, and then hit the town to create some new memories. Eventually, this offered to them full experience and zero waste or cost. The fairy even gave her a sewing machine to experience the joy of creativity. The girl was now so happy that she was able to restyle her clothes according to her favorite trends and actually create her own unique style. Moreover, Victoria started shopping only from eco-friendly and ethical fashion brands, and she got so excited by this whole new world of fashion that she felt she had to spread the message to others as well. Several green fashion campaigns benefited from her support. The girl stood by them to share her experience and pass her knowledge and beliefs to others who were not yet eco-fashion alert. All these activities resulted in her becoming so famous for her story that the public and press considered her to be the absolute green fashion idol of Britain. Her TV interviews gained so much publicity and fame that she even had the power to influence millions of people by affecting their choices and introduce them to the exciting world of sustainable fashion. Her life had finally so much meaning. Nowadays, Victoria loves every single piece in her closet and lives naturally ever after.